Jerusalem, written by William Blake. William Blake was a prodigy in his day, as were a number of other people like Purcell, who were prodigies in their day, and men who were really, really brilliant. And if we look at them, and then we look at Jeremiah Clarke, he was another one. And if we look at John Stanley, who was born about the same time in the same era, was another one. And William Blake was another prodigy. And we have to honestly say, what on earth are we doing, not recognizing that these are hymns written by very, very strong believing men who wrote and really sacrificed their lives to this belief. And people say, oh, there's no, people are dumb when they do this. Yet we appreciate their music, and it goes on for eras and eras, and it's written into our culture. And if we go back and we see some of the children who are born, who became, who wrote these huge arias, and the great composers of their day, they seem to come out the womb and crawl across the floor and start playing the piano and writing. It was, one of them here was the organist at one of the churches against huge opposition. At the age of 9, and at 11 he was taken on as a full-time organist. At 14 he was against a lot of opposition. He became the full-time organist. That is the caliber of these men are children, absolute children. And we don't seem to recognize this today. We seem to have forgotten this. We were called the people of the book because wherever we went, our men had the book, the Bible, as their reference work. Today we don't seem to have any sense. How many times do you see people who are pensioners being chucked out their homes, etc.? Where is this common sense? The rules say that, okay? That isn't what we're supposed to be about. We're supposed to be about, forgiveness and help the pensioner and help the old, etc. But no, we've got this sudden, we've got rules, and the rules are crazy, absolutely crazy. And when you look at how we've been forced into Europe against the people's will by a series of lies and deceits, it's called treachery, as far as I'm concerned, into a corrupt organization where, according to the EU's own auditors, 95% of the budget is missing for 14 years, which is 196 billion that the British have paid in, 14 million a day, 14 billion a year, adding to 196 billion. Now, if you take all 27 members of Europe, this amounts to trillions, of which they say 95% is unaccounted for. The word is unaccounted for, incidentally. I put missing on, ... stolen, question mark, in all my writings, because you can't have this situation. And what do we got for this? 200,000 laws passed by a bureaucracy, passed by a dictatorship. And this is exactly what happened in the Soviet Union. You had this council who made all the laws, and the Supreme Soviet was just a rubber stamp. That's exactly what the European Parliament is. But I hadn't intended to get onto that. But you see, as a Jerusalem, as a nation under Yahweh, and why do I call him Yahweh? Because tradition says he's God. The facts, the history, the Bible, the archaeology, going back 2,000 to 3,000 years, says it's Yahweh. And even the Encyclopedia Britannica, the Judaica, and all those well-known encyclopedias, plus, of course, the lexicons and all the writings that I've seen, which are being found, thousands of them, confirm that fact. And we've just seen an episode with the Prime Minister writing to Mrs. Jane or James or something like that, and he got the N wrong. It looked like an M or it was an N, and he just got it all wrong. And you saw the absolute explosion because the name was wrong. Yet, although this deity in the third commandment says, "Do not use my name in vain," and when you look at the name vain, which is a word used for hiding the facts, you look at it, means do not take my name and not use it, therefore making it useless and not of any force or effect. Because if you don't use it, there's no force or effect. So is God a name? No, it's a title. It's very much like Mr., Mrs., Doctor, Lord, whatever else you want to call the person concerned. But it isn't a name, because if I went around and introduced, here's Doctor, here's Mrs., here's Mrs., Mr., here's Lord, here's Doctor, you'd say to me, well, what is their names? And those are just merely titles, and God is merely a title, and Lord is merely a title. And what sort of title? We've got to find that out. And you see, all of us have been misled. And it says in the Bible, at the end time, we will know that name. And now we do. There's just no doubt about it. All the ancient writers in the Greeks and, some of the, Josephus and all these men make sure we understand it. It's Yahweh. And when you say hallelujah, you're saying hallelujah because that's the family name, Yah. When the Messiah says he comes in his Father's name, or Jesus said he's coming in his Father's name, which his name is also Yahshua, it means Yahweh says. When he says that, he means Yah is the family name. And we know that. They try all sorts of tricks. When we hear people like Blake, and we hear all these Arias, etc., these were men who believed. And, all the colleges, you take Cambridge, and you take Oxford, you take Yale, and you take Harvard, those colleges were established by Bible-believing men, strong in the faith. But what we've got is, we've got people in who are no longer believers, and, they've taken over power. And so now we've got this secular belief coming up, which in actual fact is destroying us. This nation, for instance, right now, I couldn't find the book, but it's in one of my bookcases, and I have a number of them. And in that book, and I just can't show it to you here, shows you that the pie graph of British investment overseas was 80%, and only 20% came from all other nations combined. That's how powerful this nation was. And that's when we had beliefs, and my grandparents had beliefs back in the 20s, and their fathers and mothers had beliefs, and everybody had a belief, and a very strong belief. And Yahweh says, if you don't have this belief, I will remove it all from you, all the wealth. You'll be cursed in the cities. Look at the city centres. Riots just about every night, drunkenness, and our tribe, which is the tribe of Ephraim, is named there as being a bunch of drunkards. Well, if that's our name, that's the tribal name of this nation, well, there we are, we're a bunch of drunkards. There is so much that people don't know and do not understand. And William Blake triggered a lot of this stuff off. He said, and did those feet in ancient time walk on England's mountains green, and was the holy Lamb of Yahweh on England's pleasant pasture scene? He said God, but I use the word Yahweh because God is a deity. It's an ancient Babylonian deity. And it's only now we know the proper name. And did the countenance divine shine upon our clouded hills? Was Jerusalem builded here among those dear satanic hills, which of course all the terrible coal stacks and all that lot that was going on? We had a strong belief, and on that back was established huge wealth, and which somehow a lot of the average people did not benefit from. And we've seen now, just when people are becoming wealthy, it's all been taken away and given to the banks. What for? They gave 1.4 trillion to the banks. I was just wondering for a second, it is 1.4 trillion to the banks in great big piles of money. And then they've taken loans, they're going to take loans out to pay for this lot, and we've got all these taxes amounting to 2.4 trillion. And Americans actually are looking at, I think it's to total at the present moment, of 57 to 64 trillion dollars worth of debt. That means about every American in America owes $1 million. I mean, these nations that were so wealthy and so powerful are on, in yachting parlance, on the beam end. And when it's on a beam end, it means that the thing has been blown flat and the water is pouring in. And if it doesn't get back on its feet again and the weight comes down, that ship can go down. And these ships are foundering right now in huge debt. And instead of looking at ways of reducing taxes, which is what Margaret Thatcher and Ron Reid do, they're going to increase them. Thank you very much for listening. Please visit that site up there, which has become possible purely because of YouTube. Thank you very much.